Conspiracy.
For years now, a war has been waging for our minds. The war began a long time ago, but for reasons known only to us, we either didn't see the attacks, we recognized them but chose to ignore them so that our small worlds wouldn't be bothered or disrupted. Ignoring the evil we felt creeping in worked for some time, but even the fools who boast of no spirituality can sense the oppressive darkness that is worming its way into society. Every second of every day, we are confronted with the weapons of this war that is used to unsettle our minds. Headlines, articles, scientists, politicians, princes, musicians, movies, media, mindless 10-second clips on Instagram, memes, message boards, filtered photographs, all designed to keep you from focusing on the one answer to all of the questions that plague society today. I don't think it's a coincidence that Jesus was crucified in a place called Golgotha, which is interpreted as the place of the skull. The war was once in your home. Then it moved into your school system. It followed you to the places you shop. It crept into the halls of your government, even in the house of God. And now the battlefield lies in the mind of every single one of us to take captive an entire generation. We wanted to be titillated by Hollywood, impassioned by politics, comforted by the media, escape to places of work to validate ourselves with money, gaze upon our reflections in our phones, nurture and indulge the God of self, and fall victim really to any of the tools that Satan uses to convince man he's smarter than God, just as he has repeatedly done successfully since the age of man. We're so arrogant and filled with vanity, we can't see that we aren't better or smarter than the generations who came before us. Their struggles were just as real to them as ours is to us today, but we just happen to have the luxury of being able to order groceries on an app. But we're the loneliest, interconnected society to ever exist. But now we've reached the point where even the most blind of us should be able to see what all of these wars have really been about. Good versus evil. Our society should bear enough scars for you to see how sick we've really become. We don't treasure the wisdom of the elderly. We believe the lie that if you're over a certain age, you're a drain on society when the opposite is true. Presidential candidate Mike Bloomberg thinks the elderly should just die if they get gravely sick in their old age. It is a savage society that does not respect life from its beginning or at its end. Those of us between the bookends of life are depressed, living lives lacking in simple joys despite the highlights we post on Facebook. We want to escape the feeling that we're being swallowed up by quicksand of sadness, and as a result, we are unable to help our anxious, frightened children that we've delivered into this world. Now we find ourselves surrounded by an upside-down civilization we don't recognize and we don't want. We're tired, exhausted. Life has become a burden, but that is not how God intended it to be. He left very clear instructions on how to live a life, a peaceful life, and enjoy a quiet mind despite the disturbing revelations we learn about ourselves each day. This week, we learned that in our civilized society, the recently discovered nanoseconds of cognition that bumblebees may experience are worshipped by the science community, while the same argue that human babies should be denied the right to live in some cases even after birth. American companies like Greyhound refuse to cooperate with ICE agents whose job is to enforce the law of the land. Does no one respect law and order? Our nation is becoming a glob of morally bankrupt people, but our continued silence is a sin of omission. We do nothing as activists in positions of influence advocate wretched things while encouraging the denigration of virtue. The name of Jesus Christ is only allowed as a curse word in G-rated movies. We look away, flip the channel, or worse, stay silent when J-Lo's swinging from a stripper pole wearing nothing but a whisper while singing a duet with her precious 11-year-old child during the NFL halftime show. I know, Granny looks good, woohoo, y'all just jealous, say whatever you want to say, but there was absolutely nothing in that performance with Jennifer Lopez and Shakira to celebrate. We should have wept. But before you think I'm judging anyone, I have to confess, I didn't do anything either. I watched, thought some sad thoughts about seeing women who will mentor the next generation of women whore themselves out for retweets and shares on a nationally televised stage. I felt sad for our nation, but I did nothing. Despite the warning written in Isaiah 5:20, which states, "Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that puts bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter," our society delights in all each day. Social media platforms feature mothers proudly sharing images of their children dressed in graphic tees that flirt with satanic imagery disguised as a popular movie. A cotton screen printed t-shirt seems harmless enough, but open your eyes and look around you. It doesn't take long to see the darkness and evil that has permeated so many levels of society, but you have to want to see it. Most don't. Christian churches are drying up because many who attend aren't living the word when they leave on Sunday. The greatest opportunity to win lost souls happens outside of church, but we're not giving off enough light to draw the world in, to share with them the free gift offered by Jesus that will give them the thing they want most of all, peace. Already in 2020, peace has emerged as a precious commodity. First, the war begins for our hearts, then our bodies, and once those are conquered, the battlefield for our mind begins. But before the seeds can be planted, the ground must be prepared. We become accustomed to making concessions and becoming complacent. As a result, we've developed a sensitivity to any truth that may expose our surrender and complacency. The greatest honor a friend can bestow upon another is the gift of honesty and truth. Many of our churches have lost their backbone and their zeal to fight on the front lines armored with the truth. Some use the scriptures as a weapon of judgment instead of a love letter given to us by God that holds the key to peace. This week, we were assaulted with a full metal jacket of alarming headlines, misleading articles, and videos that give a snapshot of our nation. The Democratic debate featured no American flag, no couth, no self-control, certainly no mention of God or His Son, Jesus Christ, and a bunch of old white communists hiding in socialist clothing. Despite the DNC's desperate attempts to deny him the nomination he will have earned, Bernie Sanders is the clear frontrunner and the voice of a large percentage of Americans who want him speaking for them. If he succeeds and isn't robbed of the nomination, never will there have been a more stark choice for America's future. We've been assaulted by nonstop news alerts on the coronavirus. Dr. Nancy Messonnier, director of CDC's National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases, and sister of Rod Rosenstein, who offered to wear a wire to record our president, has all but promised this virus will change life as we Americans know it. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. But let no opportunity to make anything political while also instilling panic and fear go to waste. The president has issued a more sedate warning than that of the CDC's and has appointed Vice President Mike Pence as the coronavirus czar. Despite his speech, panic in the American marketplace has already started. Stores across the country are running out of masks and hand sanitizer. Costco's emergency food pallets, which retail for $5,000, have completely sold out. The stock market has been a roller coaster of unease and uncertainty as more cases from other countries are reported each day. It seems inevitable that there will be a disruption in the supply chain since our politicians have been selling our country off in bits and pieces to other countries, including China. Another frightening thought is when people realize it might be a little bit before they can get their faves at the grocery store that only stocks 48 hours worth of inventory. Anyone from the South knows what flurries in the forecast can do to the shelves. Imagine this mentality times 110. It's personally hard for me to take this conversation around the virus uproar as delivered to me by the media when a Fox News reporter is wearing sterile gloves during a report about the coronavirus. I took a picture of it with my phone. I'll add it to the gallery at sheshedradio.com. It is truly ridiculous. Already, press conferences are being held to let us know that a vaccine is on the way, but it may take as long as a year until it gets here and gets approved. They do not need to rush on my behalf. I can promise you that. We're now hearing cured patients become reinfected, and the virus in the secondary diagnosis appear to perform in the cell like HIV. Nancy and Chuck have weighed in to criticize President Trump's response to the virus, but I don't recall them being bothered when Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton was raising the alarm back in January. And it was surreal to watch the video of the Iranian Minister of Health literally coming down with the coronavirus during a speech meant to assure the Iranian people that everything was under control. Now we hear an Iranian VP has tested positive. And while we've been consumed with news here, biblical swarms of locusts have been ravaging crops in parts of the Middle East, Africa, and South Asia. The damage is said to be catastrophic. Earthquakes are happening at an alarming pace. The earth is crying out. And the choice you have to make isn't about who's going to be your president or your senator, how you can prevent catching the coronavirus, or what you will do when society finally snaps. These are things that Satan wants us to focus on because everything is converging to light versus darkness, good versus evil, and ultimately, Jesus Christ. Since we're human, we're prone to fear and anxiety about the unknown. But remember the comforting words of Isaiah 26:3. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. I get caught up in the whirlwind like everyone else, but I'm trying to practice what I preach. I take a couple of steps into the woods behind the she shed for a quick reminder of who's in charge, and I love to share pictures of the interesting things that Perry and I discover in the forest. So you can visit the gallery at sheshedradio.com for some non-contagious and peaceful content. But as the cacophony of voices crying out, "Crisis," fight for space in your mind. Be quiet and be still and know that He is God.
Conspiracy.